Hey everyone, it's been about 3 weeks and I haven't made a video. I'm sorry, I haven't had a camera for one thing, so this is why I'm recording it on my old style format. I'm just doing a voiceover. Sorry about the mic quality, I'm actually doing it on my phone and it's probably pretty shit. Hopefully I should have a camera in the next couple weeks. To explain why I've been away, not that anyone I guess really cares, I know some of you have been asking. Basically, I've been doing my postgrad at university and it's just been so much work. I've had no free time. I've barely actually even done anything else but do work. Last week I've had off, so I wanted to make a couple of videos this weekend so I can release them in the next week. And yeah, hopefully you'll be patient. Hopefully when I get a camera, I can just bang stuff out pretty quick. I think it's a lot easier than editing videos with audio and finding clips to put in and stuff like that. But anyway, on to the video. So this might only apply to a lot of my British subscribers, but I think I can explain it to everyone and you can have your own opinion. So November in the UK is basically a month of remembering the British armed forces who'd served and died in various conflicts around the world. And I'm filming this on Remembrance Sunday, and it's just, a Sunday every year where like sporting teams commemorate the fallen soldiers of our nation. Now, the actual day for the real commemorations, which, the royal family and the Prime Minister take part, is November 11th. And the nation holds a minute's silence at 11 a.m. because that is the day when the armistice came into effect during the First World War. And the symbol of this commemoration is the poppy, and it's from a 1915 poem about Flanders Fields in Belgium, where a lot of British soldiers died fighting in the First World War. So it's since become a symbol for all the armed forces. However, the connotations are largely really about the First and Second World War. But more in recent years, it's been politicized, and there's been burnings of poppies by various like Muslim extremist groups in the UK, and it's sort of become a real. I guess in time it gets a bit racist at times because it's saying I've got people on Facebook saying if you don't like the poppy, get out of the country. And I think what people have to understand is what respecting the British Armed Forces and commemorating them means. So I don't think anyone can argue about the sacrifices of British troops and I guess British colonial troops because we honour them to some extent in the First and Second World War. Of course, a lot more skepticism has been cast on World War One lately. I've been studying it at university and I did it in school, and we're just looking at it as this real colonial war which really didn't have any bad guys or good guys. I guess you could say Germany and Austria-Hungary were the aggressors, so therefore they're the bad guys. But at the end of the day, it wasn't any clear evil. It was just a colonial war. Germany entered it to make its empire in Europe because the rest of the world had been colonized by the likes of France and Great Britain. But at the same time, Britain justified it by going to war to protect Belgium's sovereignty and to just protect France's sovereignty as well. So I guess you can't argue that. And these soldiers were incredibly brave, and they died. In Britain, I think it's 400,000 British soldiers who died. In France, it's close to 1 million. In Germany, it's over 1 million. So it's a horrible war, and these British people, of course, were really brave to go and fight them, and a lot of young men died. And I don't think anyone whatsoever can argue with the morality and justification of World War Two. It's fresh in our minds this year from Dunkirk, and things like Wolfenstein 2 or Man in the High Castle make us realise how fucked up our world would have been if the Nazis were able to conquer more of it, or maybe conquer, most of the world, or most of the Western world, certainly. And I think we should always be eternally grateful to these people. I know I am. Like, watching things like Dunkirk makes me so grateful. It makes me proud that these people stood up to it. And then you see the casting in Dunkirk, these people are so young, like people like Harry Styles, they look like my age. And it makes me realise if I was born in this era, I'd had to fight in this war. And I've also got a lot of family who fought in the military. So my great granddad fought at the Somme in World War One. He was Irish, and he got his tongue shot out. I've heard, which I can't confirm, but I think that definitely did happen. And then my great great uncle died at Dunkirk, and he was Irish as well. But at the same time, I still understand people who don't wear the poppy. I kind of want to get into my own family's history to show you why I understand that. So in the football scene, or soccer for you Americans, there's one footballer in particular who never wears a poppy, even though basically everyone does, and that's James McLean. He plays for West Brom and he plays for the Republic of Ireland. But he's actually a Catholic from Northern Ireland, and he makes a good point in saying the poppy no longer represents just World War One and World War Two. It represents British soldiers in all conflicts, and of course, Northern Ireland is an incredibly recent one. It only ended in 1998, and a lot of shit happened in that conflict. British soldiers killing Irish civilians, everything like that. So you can understand why someone from Northern Ireland wouldn't want to particularly wear one. And talking about my own history, one of my relatives was the coordinator of the Easter Rising in 1916 in the Republic, which would become the Republic of Ireland, and he had polio, so he couldn't actually do any fighting, but he was actually executed by the British because he was one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence. Also, a lot of my family, I haven't heard too much about them, but I know a lot of them were in the IRA in the 40s and I think 50s. So for me personally, I think a lot of the time, what would my relatives think of me honouring soldiers that essentially killed them? But at the same time, I have relatives who I would be honouring by wearing this because they fought and made sacrifices in World War I and World War II. But I think people have to remember these days, the poppy no longer just means World War I and World War II, even though for me, that's what I'd always associate it with. It means all the wars we fought in since. So you've got Egypt in the 50s, you have Afghanistan, Iraq, Northern Ireland, Greece, and a lot of these wars weren't done for particularly good reasons. So Iraq in particular is seen by many as an illegal war, and we went in there with the US and we killed a lot of civilians in the initial invasion, and then our invasion has contributed to this massive civil war, which is still going on today with ISIS and the Iraqi forces, and it's a total disaster. And a lot of people in this country, either if they're Muslim or if they're Arab or if they're even Iraqi, they would look at that and be like, why would we honour these troops who invaded a sovereign country under false pretenses and killed many of our, I guess, there's a bit more kinship with Arabs in general, so, our fellow Arabs or our fellow Muslims, and you can understand why they wouldn't particularly want to wear a poppy. Now, like I said, being Irish and James McLean being Northern Irish, I can definitely see why he wouldn't wear a poppy and why I wouldn't wear a poppy if I wanted to. I don't actually wear one, not out of choice. I just never really have. It's not like I don't respect these people. I don't know. I've just never really done it. And lately, I've been thinking, would I do it? And if I ever wanted to become like a public servant or a politician, I'd have to wear one. And I don't know how I'd particularly feel about that because it's been so politicized and it encompasses all these wars now, which, some of them are just essentially British colonialism, hanging on to the last remnants of our empire. And should I honour people who served in that and, did some pretty fucked up things? My best friend's in the army, and if he had to go fight in Iraq and died, I'd be pissed. And then I'd guess I'd want to wear a poppy to remember him. At the same time, the poppy kind of symbolises what we've done as well. You can't really separate these soldiers from the conflicts they fought in. That's what the poppy is essentially. It's a symbol of a conflict, and you can't really separate the cause of the wars and the soldiers who fought in them. Now, I think this new poppy I've seen on social media, I don't know if it's fake or not. It's like it's a white peace poppy. I think that's a bit stupid. Like, I don't think we should go like that far. Just wear a poppy or don't wear a poppy. You don't have to make some bullshit like anti-poppy or whatever it is. Like, I don't think I really agree with that. But at the same time, if you don't want to wear a poppy, I don't think you should be demonised. I think Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't wear a poppy if he had a choice, to be honest, because I think it's gotten way too political, and I think it should have stayed for World War I and World War II, because then no one can have an argument against. No one can have an argument against fighting Nazism and fighting Japanese imperialism, because you just can't. But you can have an argument about fighting, Egyptians over, a good trade route to India or something, or you can have a problem with, British soldiers killing Irish civilians, or you can have a problem with British soldiers killing Iraqi civilians and, toppling their government. This is why it shouldn't represent all of it. We should have an Armed Forces Day to remember all these soldiers who fought, and we should keep November 11th, because it's specifically designed for World War One and has good links to World War Two as well. We should keep it for them, because those are real heroes. I wouldn't really describe all soldiers as heroes. I know that's controversial to say, but post the Korean War, the United Kingdom hasn't really been involved in a massive war. Iraq and Afghanistan are the biggest, and we only sustained a couple hundred of casualties. But the people who fought in World War One and World War II, a lot of them, it would seem like you're facing certain death, or just certain, you're going to get injured, your life will be ruined forever. And that is true bravery, because a lot of these people joined up. Okay, you get those, not myths, but a lot of people joined up in the first year. They didn't know what it was going to be like. But think about all the people who signed up in World War Two. They knew exactly what they were getting in for. Their parents had fought in the First World War. That's real heroism, because these are civilians signing up to protect their country. It's normal, everyday people. It's not career soldiers who have signed up in the modern day. We shouldn't elevate them all together just because they've all died in service to this country, or service to this country. I'm skeptical of that, because a lot of it hasn't been service to this country. But that's why I think it should stay separate, because it does two things. It takes the whole political shit out of it because no one can argue World War One and World War Two realistically, and then it also keeps these people who were true heroes out of people. Some people who have died in these other wars have been pieces of shit. Like they've executed wounded combatants and stuff. Like it's not the exact same. You're invading sovereign countries or protecting the world from Nazism. It shouldn't be elevated to the same degree. But this is a very controversial thing I'm talking about, so I'd like to actually hear your opinions because I don't actually think I'm 100% right on this. I know a lot of things I talk about, I always think I'm right, but this thing I will happily debate people in the comments about it. And if you've got a certain point of view, you could say something like, I just think the poppy shows our respect to the fallen. Yeah, fair enough. I'll talk to you about that. I don't think I'm 100% right. I'm just putting my opinion out there, and I'm kind of nervous about this one because I know I'll get a lot of hate from like army people. But I'm just saying at the same time, I have a lot of family, and they fought in the wars, and they died, and they got irreversibly injured from them. But at the same time, I have family in the past who have been executed by British soldiers and have been killed by them. So I've got like a balanced view of it. I wouldn't necessarily object to wearing a poppy, but I'm not, passionate about going out and getting one this week or something. So just let me know what you think in the comments.